Okay, I think we can begin. The students will be joining in some time. I think they're already in process of joining. Is it okay? Can we begin?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Um, Good morning, one and all. I am Assistant Professor Alisha Sinha, and I welcome all the participants and speakers once again to this webinar titled Global Prospects for Higher Studies in Architecture and its Allied Disciplines. We hope that yesterday's session was helpful to all of you and gave some clarity with respect to the options available in Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore. Today, we begin the first half of the day with the universities of the United States of America. The first session has been organized with the support from Yashna Trust, Education USA Bangalore. Education USA is a US Department of State supported global network of over 430 international student advertising centers in more than 175 countries. They promote US higher education to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, unbiased, and current information about opportunities to study at accredited higher education institutions in the United States. Yashna Trust, located in Bangalore, hosts Education USA and is the only official source on the US higher education in the state of Karnataka. Through its in person and virtual events and services, the center helps international students to find best fit US higher education institutions. Students can sign up for their free cohort advertising or a personal annual guided advising membership to help build a strong application. For latest updates on the studying in US, follow their Instagram account. Uh, I would like to begin by introducing very briefly the Rochester Institute of Technology, from which we have our first speaker today. Founded in 1829, Rochester Institute of Technology is a diverse collaborative community of engaged, socially conscious, and intellectually curious minds. Through creativity and innovation, and an intentional blending of technology, the arts and design, they provide exceptional individuals with a wide range of academic opportunities. The beautiful 13,000-acre campus, located in central New York State, consists of 11 different colleges with over 18,000 students from over 100 countries. Their expansive global alumni network is driving progress in industries and communities across the world. Without much delay, I would like to introduce our first speaker for the day, Professor Dennis Andrejko from Rochester Institute of Technology. Dennis Andrejko is the head of Department of Architecture in the Golisano Institute for Sustainability at Rochester Institute of Technology. His prime design, research, and teaching agenda focuses on renewable energy and high performance buildings, regional design, and ecological literacy, passive systems in design, and design resiliency. He received a Bachelor of Architecture degree at Arizona State University and a Master's of Architecture in Advanced Studies at Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He has been a licensed architect in New York, California, and Arizona with projects in over 20 states. Professor is a fellow of the American Institute of Architects and a recipient of AIA's Richard Upjohn Medal. Professor, I welcome you and hand over the session to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share thoughts with you all this morning for you, this evening for me. I will try now to share my screen, if I remember, present now.
Yes, correct.
Yes, okay. Can everyone see this all right?
Yes, yes.
All right, good. Again, thank you very much, Alicia and Arijita, for the opportunity to share some thoughts with you on your new day and the end of my day here in the United States. I have been a part of the Rochester Institute of Technology and the Department of Architecture and the Golisano Institute for Sustainability for now 10 years. We are a newer program within the university. As you heard earlier, the university was founded in 1829, and there are several colleges. It's a nice campus, it's a beautiful campus, and what makes it very, very interesting is this relationship, given its title, Rochester Institute of Technology, but having an architecture program, which is part of, as you see on this screen, the Golisano Institute for Sustainability, but also aligned with the College of Art and Design. It brings together in a very special and important and unique way the relationship between what architecture is all about, and that is this infusion, if you will, of both the aesthetic or the artistic, the design side of architectural exploration, as well as the technical, scientific aspects of architectural exploration. So it's very unique for us to be housed in an Institute for Sustainability, and that's one of the core elements of our program overall. This building that I just showed and the image on the left is the Golisano Institute for Sustainability, and I'll talk a little bit more even about the building in a few minutes. We have a number of classrooms and laboratories and research facilities in the building, as well as our offices, and our studio spaces are there, as well as in the neighboring building just a few steps away, and there's an image of that on the right. So the Golisano Institute for Sustainability, oftentimes referred to as GIS, has several focus areas around exploration outside of architecture as well as inside of architecture. You can see the listing there on the left of the screen. Renewable energy, and obviously the built environment, the urban environment, but other issues with our sister department, mobility and transportation, waste to energy, food, energy, water nexus, and for us as well, resilient and connected communities. So within GIS, there are 3 degree offerings. Ours, the Master of Architecture, which is the newest within the GIS domain. Like I said, and as I mentioned earlier, our program is now 10 years old, and it is one of the newer programs on the campus as a whole. The sister department offers a Master of Science degree in Sustainable Systems and a PhD in Sustainability. But given this is both an academic entity as well as a research entity, there are a number of other applied research focused programs that occur throughout GIS as a whole. The core faculty consists of primarily those that you see here, myself and my associate, Dr. Trable, who heads the Department of Sustainability. And these 2 departments overall make up the core of the academic arm. In addition to the core faculty, we have in architecture another 8 or so adjunct faculty, and then there are upwards of 20 to 25 research faculty that support the Institute overall. In architecture, we look at ourselves as being grounded in 4, if you will, cornerstones of our program and area of exploration. First and foremost, and the overarching element is sustainability from many, many different perspectives, from both a broad perspective as well as a focused perspective on things. But to look at sustainable and resilient environments becomes a central theme of our program, but aligned and unified with that, we also have a focus on urbanism to look at achieving sustainable environments and to better enrich urban living patterns. Of course, being at RIT, the Rochester Institute of Technology, technology is another grounding element or cornerstone in our program to use both tools for explorative aspects of design inquiry and also tools to be able to test and evaluate various approaches to design. In bringing all these together, integration both in learning and in practice, and integrating design and technology together to fuse these various elements to enrich our built environments for a better tomorrow. So I say these are the four cornerstones, but really the essence of the program is on design. It's to bring these four cornerstones together to capture the value of design, to provide healthy communities, and to enrich our lives overall. Some of the educational objectives of architecture, to expand on that a little bit more, are to look at sustainability as a comprehensive and a holistic and an immersive element in terms of exploring design opportunity. To look, as I said before, at combining both technical and practical knowledge as a base for design. But the robust, both critically and creatively look at design inquiry to enrich both process and product is very important. And also equally, if not most important, would be as one graduates in the program to allow a student to have herself or himself in a position to take leadership roles in the profession, both individually, but equally important in a teamwork aspect and integrated with business and holistic investigation. Now, this diagram very briefly shows at the top what is a more traditional approach to a graduate architectural program. And at the present time, our program is only a graduate level offering, the Master of Architecture degree, which is a professional degree accredited by the National Architectural Accrediting Board. But what we've done on the bottom part of this diagram is we've set up our curriculum to look to be more integrative and holistic and immersive in nature. So design is the core, if you will, with sustainability as the underpinning, is the way we like to think about how we bring into everyday coursework various aspects of drawing history, practice, and planning, and specific aspects of building systems, but doing so in an immersive way, which goes beyond the traditional approach of separating various elements into disparate parts. This may be a little bit difficult to see, but our program is available to students without a background in architecture. And this curriculum mass identifies a 3.5-year commitment to a Master of Architecture degree. The first year is foundational in nature and has underpinnings in history and in design and representation, skill building. And it starts off with core courses in sustainability, but in any given semester, there's an infusion across these courses to look at, again, as I mentioned before, the program and elements of architecture in a holistic way. Continuing into years 2 and 3, we continue with studio investigation and other courses that link to the studio as a whole. But another interesting and important part of the program is in each of the studios, there is coupled with it the integrated building systems. Again, a holistic look at building systems with each of the respective studios, a site studio, an urban studio, an adaptive studio for existing buildings. And lastly, for the studio sequence, an integrative or comprehensive studio to bring together all of the years of your coursework into a final set of design investigation. Once that is ended, there is a thesis requirement for graduation, and in addition, there is a global experience requirement as well as a co-op requirement for graduation. This totals 105 semester credit hours of work for meeting the requirements for the professional accredited degree. However, for those with backgrounds, many of you, I think, in the audience would fit into this category perhaps. We have an advanced standing option, which is very much like the second and the third plus years of the matrix or the curriculum mass that I just showed, where the first year is virtually eliminated because of previous experience that an applicant may have for her or his educational endeavors at the undergraduate level. So this requires upwards of about 84 credit hours, but this first and second years of the program are very much like the second and third year of the program that I previously described. So we offer entrance into our program to any student who has any undergraduate baccalaureate degree and has an undergraduate grade point average of 3.0 by our standards or higher or an equivalent thereof. You do have to have at least one semester each of college level math or science. Many of our students, some come in without that background, but they can pick up that requirement within the first year of enrollment at RIT. We do require, of course, transcripts and personal statement, letters of recommendation, and we do require a portfolio for review for acceptance. So that's not unlike many other universities in terms of an application review to submit. So the GIS building, the Golisano Institute for Sustainability building, is about 80,000 square feet. And it is what we also refer to as a living learning laboratory. While I mentioned we call it and refer to it as GIS, it is more formally identified as Sustainability Institute Hall. And it is a living learning laboratory to allow all of our students to see and feel and touch and learn about and explore and experiment around various aspects on a technical side of the built form and fabric of the entity itself. There are over 1,500 sensors in this building that capture data 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for us to evaluate and assess and monitor. There are a lot of visual elements that make up the sustainable aspects of the building. It is a LEED Platinum building. It's a high performance building. It's on track to become carbon neutral by 2030. It has a green roof, as you can see some of the elements here, geothermal systems, a PV system. It has a large microgrid assembly and a fuel cell that actually gives energy back to the campus as a whole. The GIS Galleria space, the center core of the building, is flooded with daylight. Daylighting is one of the major aspects of the building to reduce the reliance on artificial lighting. And this is where a lot of presentations occur and activity occurs over the course of the day. On the right-hand side is where many of our classrooms and offices are. And on the left-hand side of the Galleria space is where many of the research laboratories are. We have a variety of computer labs and decision theaters. We have collaboration spaces for collaborative work to occur. As I alluded to already, we have a variety of research labs. We take advantage of what we call the SBML, or in this case, the materials lab, the Sustainable Building Materials Lab, to engage and have our students test various products and materials and assemblages of building skins and things of a similar nature. Here's another shot of the green roof that I had a small little element on the previous slide. And the green roof actually allows rainwater to work its way through, and we harvest rainwater as well for reuse in the building within the restrooms and for watering plants and the like. We have a PV array on the upper roof on the right, but the smaller solar array that you see here on the green roof is for testing various types of solar collectors that we can swap out and, in a sense, race different types of collectors and assemblages. So the GIS building is an artifact in and of itself as a piece of architecture, but it serves as a nexus for us, if you will, for our Master of Architecture program. As I said, the building is a living learning laboratory, and so it allows our students to see and feel and touch and evaluate various aspects from a technical and operational and use side of the building, while at the same time becomes habitable space for us for our program. Here you can make out a bit the green roof that I was just showing earlier in some of our collaboration spaces on the east and west side of the building that also mark the entrance of the space. But architecture in our architecture program, like many programs around the country and the world, uses studio as the core, as the infusion aspect, and our studio culture is very, very robust and interactive. There's a lot of work that is done in an individual way, and there's a lot of work that's done in a collective way as well. Students have their own dedicated workspaces in the studios, and they're accessible 24/7. They have access to the studio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So let's just take a quick look to give you just a brief sample at a couple of studio projects to see some of the outcomes. Here are a few shots of some presentation opportunities, both in the Galleria space and in other parts of campus. So I'll just show you over the last couple of minutes here a few projects from the integrative or comprehensive studio. This is in the third year after the students have completed their other requisite studios and courses to bring together various aspects of history, of theory, of technology, of sustainability into a unified whole. This many times we use projects in the vast majority of our classes and studios of actual settings and sites in and around the city and in and around the region. This happens to be a music facility in a small parcel of land in the city of Rochester. And the designers, the students here, looked at bringing the theme of music and the harmony of music, almost, you can see on the bottom, almost likening it to the keys on a piano, if you will, to express the notion of music, but at the same time, to look at and explore aspects of sustainability from a materiality aspect, from a cladding aspect. You can see off on the right issues of daylighting exploration and similar things like that. So this is a common type of presentation that our students would engage in from using some of the tools that I'm sure many of you are aware of already in terms of computer-aided design and production. Another shot showing a little bit more of the daylight aspects of the building. And here's another student project, a little more poetic in nature. Very bottom, there were a number of explorative aspects done in terms of massing to optimize on the surface to volume ratio of the building. But again, not losing sight of the concept and the theme and the poetry of the music for this actual music school. So a little more free flowing and a little more soft in nature relative to the first project that we saw. But again, paying attention to technical aspects, cladding aspects, building system aspects from both an active as well as a passive perspective, but bringing it into a unified whole. These drawings do not show, but the culminating studio, the integrative studio, also requires students to evaluate and anticipate the overall energy performance of their building to work toward creating a net zero sustainable project. Here you can see a little bit better of the infill site here within the urban context of that actual parcel for this particular studio project. And the last one takes advantage of some computer-aided design tools, but is also this student decided to explore in a more hand-done way presentation opportunities. And this becomes very free-form and very poetic. Here you can see some green roofs. There's issues of water involved. Becomes very playful. And another expressive form, which many of you in the audience are, I'm sure, talented with and around in terms of both representation and communication skills by drawing with the hand as well as by drawing with the computer. So another image of that. But these are just a couple of examples of the variety of studio projects that our students engage in. And as I mentioned earlier, if you recall, our other studios tend to have focus areas, again, urban context, site context, adaptive context, and of course, the last one, the integrative context. The thesis requirement is very open for the students to explore in ways to focus in on something around the built environment, either that has a stronger design focus for thesis or has a stronger research focus for thesis or a hybrid modality to critically inquire in a focus area of his or her interest. So this critical inquiry label is very, very important to us to both look at things overall in an architectural way, but really to examine things in a critical way. That's not to say that creativity's unimportant, because that's the other thing that we try to emphasize as well. Creative exploration and going on that journey in a variety of different ways. I throw a few of these images where I may have traveled or not, going on a journey to go fishing, going on a journey to go flying, going on a journey to explore nature, going on a journey to look at historic and buildings and repurposing of buildings. And my grandson here going on a journey to begin to get creative even at a young age. And as I said before, and what's very, very, very important in our program is community engagement. Many of our projects, not just in studio, but also in some of our core courses, the urban and regional planning course, some of the other sustainability courses really go into the community. And so scholarship of engagement in exploring things in terms of community involvement is part and parcel of our program as well. So the Master of Architecture program at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, is a very challenging program, but at the same time, it's very rewarding and engaging, and it is enriching. It is a smaller program by comparison to many other accredited programs around the country in the United States. But in doing so in that way, we have upwards of 50 or so students in the graduate program. We get to know each other very, very well, and it becomes a good, harmonious family to work together to look forward to creating a more prosperous, sustainable future for all of us. So thank you very, very much. That's my overview of what our program is about and what we have to offer.
Thank you so much, Professor. This was very, very helpful for us to understand how the program works at your university. I have a couple of questions here that the students had given. Would you mind me asking?
No, not at all.
Okay. One person has asked that he or she, whoever it is, has been out of touch from the academic side and has been working with a corporate design environment for the past 4 to 5 years. How do I start getting back to the frame of mind to start working on my portfolio and preparing for an academic journey again?
Good question. I'll speak to the last one first. Preparing the portfolio, if you've been out of the academy for a while, is really about what you can show the potential for creative and critical inquiry overall. It does not have to always just be about architectural products. It can be about a lot of different things and a variety of different things, specific to, again, the potential to show your interest in creative and critical exploration and investigation. I hope that answers a little bit. We're not looking for architectural product necessarily in the portfolio, but the potential that shows critical and creative thinking. The first part being, I'm forgetting a little what the first part was about, but being out and how do you get back in? I guess what I want
Yeah.
to say about that for our program is we have a very, very strong relationship with the professional community and the business community. In fact, our program was grounded in the professional community wanting to connect with the university and partner with us overall. So actually, I think that's a blessing to be out in the real world, to be able to come back in and to bring that experience. I can just share a couple of broad examples. We have a student in our program now that was working outside for a few years and wanted to get back into the discipline, and specifically the discipline of architecture. We had a student who graduated just a couple of years ago that spent a number of years in the legal realm, and she came on board and always wanted to be an architect, but never had the time for it. So she had no portfolio experience, but she was very bright and she was very engaging. And she graduated a couple of years ago as one of our best students overall. And now she's taken a leadership role in the community for senior aspects of livability and the like. So we have a variety of different backgrounds of individuals coming in, and if you have a willingness and an interest in getting involved, it's very easy to put your package together to apply to our program.
Yes, I think that answers the questions. There's one more question that is kind of a continuation of the same with respect to the portfolio. One student asks that suppose you are looking at the portfolios to engage them in a program on masters or in sustainability. So do you look at content in the portfolio which is specific to sustainability, or you look at a broader picture in the portfolio on whatever variety of work the student has done before?
That's a very good question. The answer is yes. I know there are two parts to that. We look at both, but more seriously and specifically, we are not necessarily interested or focused on looking in the portfolio elements around sustainability. We're looking more so on the latter of what you can bring, again, as I mentioned before, critically and creatively. Because if you enter our program, I think what you want to say as part of the application in your statement, what is it about sustainability and the future of society and the human condition and the environment that interests you overall? And that doesn't have to be in the portfolio, but it should be born into your statement a bit.
Correct.
And when you come into our program, you'll get a wide variety, again, broad and specific, technically, environmentally, socially, on sustainable exploration that will allow you to become more and more versed in that area.
Okay, understood. Uh, okay, one more question again on similar lines. What is better, doing masters right after graduating from architecture or doing after some years of experience in the practical field?
That's another very, very good question. And I've had that question many, many times over my long career in the academy and in the profession. And I've seen it occur with success and without success both ways.
Okay.
I went right into my graduate work right out of my undergraduate work. I have some very, very good colleagues around the country and the world that waited a few years and went into the field and worked for a bit. It really depends on your background, your interest, your experience, and your life overall. There's no right or wrong answer to that. It really depends on the condition. Personally, for me, it worked out better for me that way. I've seen failures that way, but I've also seen success and failures where people wait a few years.
Correct. So it's very situation or context specific. It is
It
not
is. It is very,
something
very
that we
much.
can. Yeah. Okay.
I
Okay.
will also just say one other thing, because I was sharing this with some students just the other day, is time matters. Time is finite for all of us. And we tend to think we've got an infinite amount of time in front of us and we can wait until tomorrow. And I speak about that personally, even with my family, with siblings and growing up. And we would always say, and we're scattered around the country, we'll get together tomorrow, next year at the next event. But time goes by, and before you realize that more time has gone by, and you say, where did the time go? Seize the moment. Capitalize on what you have. You have your memory, you have your past, you have today. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. So whatever your interests are, seize the moment and take advantage of the gift you have right now and what you can capture with that gift to be able to give back.
That's a very, very thoughtful insight, Professor. I don't think there are any more questions from the audience. So I would just like you to thank you for sparing your time out for this session. And it's actually very late, I understand, at your end. So we are very, very thankful that you could make time out for this program. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Professor.
Thank you. And you are welcome. And thank you, audience, as well. I had on the last slide there the website to be able to get a hold of us, but you will have, this is being recorded, as I know.
Yes, yes.
You can get a hold of me in any way, or the graduate enrollment office at Rochester Institute of Technology. But thank you all very, very much for the opportunity to share some time with you today. And best wishes for a successful day and year ahead for you all.
Thank you. Thank you. It has been an immense pleasure having you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next session. We have the team of the University of Cincinnati here. Giving you a brief introduction about the university. The UC is a public research university and remains as a world-class leader in experience-based learning. Since its founding in 1819, UC has been a source of many discoveries, creating positive change for society, including the first antihistamine, the first co op educational program, the first electronic organ, the Golden Gate Bridge designer, and the oral polio vaccine. Each year, UC graduates nearly 10,000 students and welcomes over 4,000 international students to its campuses and adds more than 300,000 living alumni to the world. Today, from this team, we have two people here, Professor Vincent Sansalone and Professor Rebecca Williamson. Uh, Welcome, both of you. I'd like to introduce you in 2 minutes. Professor Vincent Sansalone is an associate professor of architecture and the director of graduate architecture at the University of Cincinnati. He received his BFA and BArch from the Rhode Island School of Design and MFA in architecture from the Cranbrook Academy of Art. His teaching and research are focused on foundational pedagogy at both undergraduate and graduate levels. He is the founder of DPMT 7, which is a collective founded on a common desire to question, refine, and improve our environment through design and making. The curiosities tend to engage design at all scales, and this practice informs an enriching feedback loop, allowing theory and practice to inform each, adding a constant critical voice to the work. We welcome you, Professor.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Our pleasure, sir. Uh, Professor Rebecca Williamson directs the Masters of Science and PhD programs in architecture at the University of Cincinnati. A registered architect with the experience and practice in Europe and USA, she holds a PhD in architecture from the University of Pennsylvania and a Masters of Architecture degree from Virginia Polytechnic Institute. Prior to joining the team of Cincinnati School of Architecture and Interior Design in 2006, she taught for 5 years in France through a partnership between French National School of Architecture at Versailles and the University of Illinois, as well as Urbanism Program of Paris Institute of Political Studies. We welcome you, ma'am, here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now I would like to hand over the session to you, both of you, and you can proceed. Thank you so much.
All right. I'm going to try to pull up this presentation.
Can you see me? Because I can't see myself. So.
I can see you.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me do this.
Vincent,
Do this.
Arijita, would you need help in terms of trying to find out where the present now button is? It's towards the right hand side of your screen, bottom right.
Right. Yeah, I did that.
Right.
And then the share came up and my screen just came up. But do you see this?
No, we can't see anything that you have shared so far.
Oh, shoot.
When you press the present now button, there would be a couple of options that should pop up. So you could try looking for the option of a tab or your entire screen, and then basically pulling out the presentation.
So should I press your entire screen, a window, or a tab?
Have you already opened your presentation? Is it already on
Yeah.
your system? Okay. If you click on a tab, can you see the presentation in the window that pops up?
No, I do not.
I think the window option would be better if it's a separate software like PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Then you go to the option of present your window, and
Yep.
then click on then your presentation might come.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry
This is
about
while
that.
you're working on. Do you want me to do a general introduction while
Yes,
you're working on
please.
that? What's that? Oh, you're good. You're coming up. Okay.
Well, you can start with your introduction now.
Oh, well, the general introduction is I always like to explain to students that there are different types of programs. So the reason Vincent is going first is he coordinates our larger program, which is a professional degree program. And I'll talk afterwards about the post-professional degree programs. So the MArch is an accredited degree in architecture, professional degree, and it is a STEM program. The program I'll be talking about afterwards is a post-professional, so students with a BArch or an MArch, and is not a STEM program. And we'll answer questions later, so I'll let Vincent go.
So I'm going to go through this very quickly. Welcome to the University of Cincinnati online right now. We are a School of Architecture and Interior Design within the College of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning at the University of Cincinnati. The program, as in the introductions, we are a School of Architecture and Interior Design, both undergraduate degrees and graduate in the master's, the MS, as well as the PhD program. We are located in a building that is 3 buildings, but is one. The latest that in the image here is the interior of the addition by Peter Eisman almost 25 years ago. These are some images from the campus. It's a beautiful campus, modern campus, not your typical American university campus. Buildings by Morphosis, by Schumi, just a beautiful, beautiful campus to learn and teach on. We are located 2 miles out of the center of downtown Cincinnati, a city of about 300 or so thousand in an area of a couple million. It's really a 19th century city in its history. It's along the Ohio River in the Midwest. Many cultural buildings, Music Hall. Image on the lower left is Zaha Hadid Contemporary Arts Center, Art Museum on the right. Many cultural buildings, arts, music. It's an amazing city to live in. I'm actually originally from Cincinnati and came back here 17 years ago to teach at the University of Cincinnati. This is just a brief look at the undergraduate BS in architecture. You can see the number of students between architecture and interior design, roughly 500 undergraduates, roughly over 100 graduate students in the master's program, the MS and the PhD. And we're just starting an MBA as well as a master's in urban design. We have 2 different tracks in the MArch program, the 2-year and the 3-year. The 2-year is based off of students who come in with a background in architecture. It's a 2-year program where you come in for 1 semester. Second semester, you go out on co-op. And then the next 3 semesters, you're in your last semester, you have an independent thesis. For students who are coming from other disciplines into the M1, there's an additional year, an additional 2 semesters of coursework with an additional semester of co-op. Rebecca, if you want to talk about the MS for a second.
Sure. Okay, so the MS it's a 42 credit course of study, which will be completed in 3 semesters. There's also a thesis, and so what our students have tended to like to do is CPT, so they're sort of alternating between, although we don't have a formal co-op program as they do, they alternate between their, they get work related to their interests and alternate with the course of study. So we have an 18 credit core curriculum, and the students in the MS program are in the classes in that core curriculum with the students in the PhD program. And then they can take any elective they want from anywhere in the School of Architecture, from in the college. They take planning courses, art or design courses would be open to them. And then courses from across the university as well. So it's a pretty substantial university with all the different domains and many different choices there. And then there's an individual thesis that each student chooses. Those topics vary quite widely. Some of them are more technical and some of them are more theoretical or historical. It's kind of runs the gamut.
Rebecca will talk about the PhD program at the end also. In the first year of the M1 program, we get our hands dirty. We build, it's the first project out of the box where the students do a collaborative design build project on campus. It's a studio that I teach. These are some of the visualization, an image from one of the visualization courses in the M1. Second semester, the first semester is more hands-on, more foundational skills. Second semester with Professor Mara Marcoux, we get into the digital fabrication, digital making, digital design. Second year or the first semester of the M2 program, second year of the M1, the first semester studio is a tectonic studio where students, as you see here, build, large scale sectional models, really getting into the tectonics of the building. The second semester is an urban studio. This is from last 2 summers ago, 30-acre site in the city of Cincinnati along the Ohio River. Another example of that. This is a 1-semester project. Some of these projects are individual or teams of 2. And you can see in 1 semester, fully flushed out designs. Research. So the studios themselves, the research studio, which is the 3rd semester of the M2 program, studios can be broad. It's, depending on the faculty, their interest and their research topics. This is from a studio 2 years ago looking at the North American free trade between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. There's also, we have an aspect of design build. This is a project from a number of years ago where students transformed a shipping container into a poet's retreat. One of the things Rebecca touched on, that students have the opportunities within DAAP, taking electives, and this is one of our now current thesis students, but down in the welding and shop areas, working with forges and things like that. So great facilities, computer 5-axis machines to do almost anything you want and are interested in, and the faculty to support you. This is just another image from a studio that Mara Marcoux taught, or it might have been Christoph. Digital fabrication, another project out of that also. So we're interested in things at a scale model, as in this image from thesis from 3 years ago, but also looking at building things full scale, understanding something 1-to-1. Another thesis project from a few years back. This is Alan's project. He was an M1 student who now is working on his PhD at Yale. Another thesis, I'm running through a couple of different thesis projects. So as Rebecca said, with the MS, wide spectrum, as well as in the MArch, the thesis projects, research, and investigate many varied topics. This is a student who came into our program with a background in interiors and exploring ideas between dating apps and the casino. Amazing written document that she produced also. So there was a written aspect to this thesis. Virtual reality, this is our final review at the end of the year. Some more thesis work from last year. Project in Ghana, working with flooding. A project in Vietnam, looking at informal architecture. Project in West Virginia. Also, the other thing, not only is the research and the thesis varied, we do not have an aesthetic for our universities. We teach aesthetics, we talk about aesthetics, but we do not channel one mode of presentation or representation. Publications is a book that came out a few years ago that talks about the school, the work that's being done in the school. These are some other publications that have come out in the last year. The Fulton DAAP landing is looking at that 30-acre site that the graduate students are doing. Into the Nest is a book, fourth year studio, looking at affordable housing. The book on the right is a collaboration between the University of Cincinnati and I'm blanking on the name of the university in China. We're working with other universities around the world, went to China and built a number of small projects. A book that's coming out soon, Fit for King, on King Records. Hopeful Rebar is another book coming out. We took graduate students to Mexico City last year, right before the pandemic. So we have a large interest in Central and South America. We, as mentioned, we are a co-op program, cooperative professional practice program. Our students work all over the country, all over the, sometimes all over the world. This is the firm Inc. out of New York. Two of the three partners in the firm are our graduates. We also, this is more for students that are coming out of our undergraduate program, a pathway to licensure, but you're able to take courses that will lead to you getting a license after you've built your hours outside the university. Faculty work, these are some of the books. Architectural School, Rebecca Williamson, research editor, a number of the other books that we've done. We have a number of practicing architects on our faculty. Michael McInturf, local practitioner, was actually worked for Peter Eisman back in the day when they were doing our building. Terry Bowling, a practitioner also in the city, residential, commercial, small commercial restaurant designer. Mara Marcoux, who I've brought up a number of times, one of the directors of Arcadia. Stephen Slaughter, shown here, crosses between architecture, interiors, and industrial design. Christoph Klempt, Ming Tang, Andrew Tetro, young architect who is just starting a practice here in the city, has come back after working for Herzog de Meuron. Gregory Marinik, who is a prolific writer. myself, Department 7, we do everything from building pelicans that drop 100,000 wiffle golf balls. Like I said it was said in the intro, we are more of an art and research practice. We don't do many built buildings. Visiting faculty, Brian Healy out of Boston, Carolina and Adam out of New York City. Heather Bison, who's our Orville Simpson visiting professor right now, came out of Yale, but then to Carnegie Mellon, some of the work from her studio. We also participate in the ULI Heinz student competition. This is a team last year, was one of the finalists. And this is held throughout the country, and we lost out to, I believe, MIT and Harvard. Other kind of student awards, Tyler Duty on left, first year work on the right from undergraduate. A lot of college resources. At the end of the year, every year we have a college-wide DAAP show. So all the 4 schools get together and put on a large show. Travel abroad, as I mentioned, to China, to Mexico City. There's a number of certificate programs, teaching opportunities, GA-ships, scholarships, as well as jobs on campus for students. And I spoke about the MBA that just got approved, and we're working now on the approval for the urban design. Teaching opportunities as GAs, we also hire recent grads as adjuncts. And as I mentioned Alan earlier, we hired him as a recent grad. After 2 years, went on to Yale. Another one went on to Yale for a PhD. But certificate programs in preservation, horticulture, public art, a number of things. A lot of student-run organizations, a lot of scholarship opportunities, and great lecture series every semester. People from all over the country and the world, specifically this year where everything is virtual. So we're having an amazing, series from, Victor Lagaretta from Mexico City because of being online. We also have an informal lecture series called Business Casual with young practitioners from around the country. As I mentioned, the DAAP Works show at the end of every year. There's also a summer camp thing that we do, the DAAP does. So the School of Architecture, brings in students who are in junior high or high school, and our graduate students are the ones who teach them. Resaid.co is a website run by students. So what's on there is student run. Bowling is still in there. We used to go bowling every Wednesday night. So there's a lot of collaboration between the student and the faculty. Great student culture. Financial aid. So our tuition for 2 years is $36,000. With co-op, with scholarships, we are an excellent value and a great education. But here's the contact, and as was stated, this is recorded. So you can reach us there. Kim Lawson, whose email's at the top, is amazing. She runs the place in so many ways. My email, I'm sure you can look up. And here's the website for a virtual walkthrough. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. quick 60 slides in 20 minutes. Rebecca, do you want to talk about the PhD?
Okay, well, so actually, before I get on to the PhD, just if you want to know what's distinctive about the University of Cincinnati, there are a few things that do set it apart from other schools. It's one thing is it's an urban university. It's in a city, and it's very it's the sort of rare urban public university, and its relationship with the city is important. The co-op program was founded, so the co-op is an internship. It's a system of alternating semesters between being in classroom and being in a professional context. Those professional contexts can vary, but generally the architecture students are in architecture offices in the United States and sometimes in other countries. And that's a really integral part of our education. So our whole curriculum is built around this alternating between class and the professional field. The students are bringing the professional experience back into the classroom discussions. And so when Vincent talked about the bowling, the students end up being almost feeling like peers with the professors pretty early on. And many of the people that Vincent collaborates with are his former students, in fact. So those kinds of friendships and collaborations develop. Another thing that's pretty distinctive is that it is both in a school of art, a college of art and design. So it's, as you saw, the fashion, the sculpture, and the planning and other fine arts are also part of this college. And so it's kind of like being in an art school, but on the other hand, it's on a campus of a full-scale university. There's a very substantial medical program, law program, business program, very substantial creative and performing arts program, CCM, which is one of the top music and performing and theater and other performing arts programs in the country. So those are all kind of distinctive characteristics of the school. I didn't actually focus on the PhD because I'm assuming that everybody here just has a BArch. Is there anybody, with the raised hand, if you want to raise your hand if you have a master's already?
Most of the students are pursuing for masters only, but it would be nice and insightful if you could like spare 5 minutes and talk about PhD as well.
So as I mentioned at the beginning, the sort of the gold standard degree is the MArch, is the Master of Architecture. It's a lot of coursework and a lot of work, but for you guys, it's only 2 years, presumably if you're coming in with a BArch. So that's what Vincent explained. That's an accredited professional degree. Now, the BArch is also an accredited professional degree, but if you're coming outside the US, you don't have a US accredited professional degree. So we do, in the MS, which is a much smaller program, we do have students from India and neighboring countries. It's a very international program, but we do get students with the BArch coming in who they're interested in a more theoretical or research angle, and they're not interested in continuing with more studio classes. So if your interest is in continuing to develop your design through studio classes, the MArch is the right place for you to be. If your interest is in doing a research project that in our program is really primarily a written project, that people do data analytics and they do a certain amount of scientific and quantitative stuff, but it's primarily related to the history, theory, and criticism of architecture as it relates to practice. So that's that track. Now, why would you do an MS? Well, there are a few different reasons. One is you want to study a little bit more, but you don't want to engage in the full MArch. You feel like you have enough design and you just want that one more thing. And then you go back to practice, and many people do that. The other reason is that you might be thinking that you want to teach someday, and you might be thinking that you want to do a PhD. We do not accept people into our PhD directly with the BArch. There may be, or with any bachelor's degree. There may be other schools that do, but for the University of Cincinnati, if you want to do the PhD, you first have to have that master's degree, or you can start our MS degree, and after the first semester, you can apply for the PhD. And we do accept people into the PhD from the Master of Science program. You don't lose any time, because the core curriculum of the two programs, which the core curriculum consists of a sequence of 3 theory courses, a research methods course, and 2 semesters of colloquium. After that first semester, you can apply for the PhD, and then we are able to admit you from that program into the PhD. The PhD, for the most part, people who take the PhD are interested in academic careers. We have had people with atypical career paths. One of our recent graduates just got elected to the parliament in Kuwait on a platform that came directly out of his thesis, which had to do with, so there are many people in Kuwait who are not citizens, and they don't have access to the same kind of housing as Kuwaiti citizens. And so he was looking at the housing conditions of people, non-citizens living in Kuwait. And he developed a kind of social justice platform, and then has initiated a political career. And we have people who are artists and people who end up in academic administration. And it's totally plausible for somebody just to go back into practice too. But for the most part, you do the PhD in the United States so that you can teach. PhD it can be done in 5 years. We had one guy who went a little bit faster, but he was extremely motivated. And I would say in general, it takes 5 years. The first 2 years, the same coursework as the MS. The third year is when you're defending, you're taking a major exam, defending your proposal. And the final 2 years or more, up to 9 years total, is writing a dissertation, which is your original work with a committee of at least 3 faculty members. Why do I say up to 9 years? The university cuts it off after 9 years. That's the time you have. And some people at that point in their careers may have children, be running their own practices, and so on. So we don't really, it's all kind of at your own pace after the first 2 years. We don't control that. And I don't know if I'll let you ask questions. I mean, we read history and theory, and students write about all different kinds of things. And they all take, actually, one more thing that's important, Vincent mentioned in passing the certificate programs. So there are a number of specializations that you can choose to do, and all of our PhD students do a certificate. So historic preservation is very popular, urban design is very popular, data analytics, women, gender, and sexuality studies. And then from there on, there are many other things. And so that's another aspect of it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Actually, the final thing, PhD students are involved in teaching with our undergraduate students also.
Okay. I would request the students, if they have any questions at this point, they can put up in the chat box. Till then, I have some questions which they had given to us before. Can I ask them?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the questions is, because your university is very, like you said, it's like a thin line between an art school and an architectural school. So in that case, when you're looking at the portfolios of the students who are applying, what are the key areas that you focus on? Like, what are the key areas that they should work on their portfolio if they want to apply to University of Cincinnati?
Since I spent all day Saturday last week, and I will be spending all day this Saturday looking at portfolios for the incoming class. We look at people that have a really strong foundational skill set, who can hand draw, who can think creatively. We're also looking at conceptual models, conceptual sketches. We're interested in people that, also paint, because we are in an art school. Rebecca, did not mention her undergraduate is from my alma mater, also from Rhode Island School of Design. Our director has a painting background. So art is a large part of ours, but we're looking for a holistic kind of portfolio, but showing real creative thinking. We're not looking for someone in a specific area. That would be great, but we're not looking for that.
But I guess so that's about the portfolio. In terms of what you can study, it's really because it's a relatively big program with a large faculty with a lot of specialization. Students can find their pathway, whether it's sustainability, computational work, urban design, interiors. Obviously, we have the interiors program there. There's any number of things that students are able to do. It's not just kind of a one size fits all. That we really have the opportunities for a student to work with, primarily with 2 or 3 professors who have a lot of expertise in a particular area.
Okay, so this brings me to another question, which I earlier thought I'll not ask, but like talking about the diversity in terms of the interests of programs, one student has asked that he or she is not able to define his area of interest. Like he's not able to understand whether he wants to study sustainability or conservation or planning. So as academicians, do you have some suggestions for such students to guide them to make them understand their interests better?
Write a very good letter.
Well, I think some programs have very specialized programs that you get into. You really can, whether it's the MS or the MArch, you enter the program as a generalist, and then within that you find your pathway.
Right.
So we don't need a student to articulate a very specific focus for research. In fact, we love it when the students discover something. They take a studio and they get passionate about something that they hadn't even thought about before. And also saw something, a question flick up about the ability to work in the United States. The co-op experience, the CPT that the students do in the MS exposes students to practice in the United States. So there's really quite a bit of experience practicing in the United States, and that also starts to shape pathways too. So that professional experience is really integral to the educational process.
And to follow up your question, yes, I said write a very good letter, but that's why I said what we're looking for in a portfolio is someone who has a really strong foundational set, because of the faculty that we have. We want someone who comes in with an open mind and and eyes wide open.
Well said.
Yeah, understood. Okay, one last question. Okay, let me check the chat box once, please. Yes. There's one question here. Do we have the option to work as architects in US with bachelor's degree from India after doing master's in a design program from a university in US?
Yes.
Yeah, so the difference is whether you get accredited, whether you get licensed. So if you have a BArch from India and you go to work in a firm in the United States, you can work as an architect, but you can't get licensed as an architect easily. I mean, there's a long pathway perhaps, but if you have the MArch, you can get licensed relatively. I mean, you have to take the exams, but that, so if you have a US-based accredited degree, which is what we have, then you can get licensure. Now, if you have the MS, that's not going to help because it's not accredited professional degree. Is that answering the question?
I hope, Vibha, that this answers your question.
So you can work as an architect without being licensed, but if you want to be a licensed architect and sign your own projects, which not everybody, not all of our professors are licensed architects, but if you want to be a licensed architect and sign your own projects, you need to have that MArch degree or a second BArch, I suppose, but I wouldn't see why anybody would want to do that.
Okay, one last question I have. Again, based on the job prospects, there's a student who's asking that because they go on a student visa there to study for masters, and then after that, what is the situation when they get a job there, and what are the different domains in which they can go? They can of course not start their own practice immediately, but if they're working with some firms, and so what is the situation in terms of that?
Well, I mean, the opportunity is here because Rebecca, remind me of what it's called for them.
OPT. All right. So when the students graduate from, when an international student graduates, if they graduate from the MS, they get 1 year of OPT. If they graduate from, or they're eligible for 1 year. If they graduate from the MArch, they're eligible for 2 years of OPT because it's a STEM degree. Typically, it's because they've already worked in firms through the co-op program, they typically have those professional contacts. I can tell you, even we've got MS students from India who have been working in the United States, and they've after the OPT run, they've turned those into permanent positions. So those options are certainly there. It's not actually entirely true that you can't just start your own practice, by the way. I mean, there are people who, rather than going to work in firms, or maybe as a supplement initially, they do start a kind of more experimental practice. That's existing as an option too. But I would say, even though the economy's been a bit rough, and the last 2020 was a bit of a rough year, but in general, those opportunities are certainly there, and we would expect the climate towards international students and workers to be bright for the future.
Okay, thank you so much. I think there are no further questions. Thank you, Professor Williamson. Thank you, Professor Sansalone. This has been a wonderful session. Very nice to see your campus, and it's very intriguing. And I hope our students feel interested, and they might even get in touch with you with respect to.
Okay. I've put 2 pages of information into the folder that you set up, the Google folder.
Yes.
So, and one of them has my contact information on it.
Okay, sure. I'll be sharing that with the students. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And end of the session, I would also like to thank Arijita Sanyal, the central manager, for extending a helping hand and coordinating with you both and arranging this wonderful session for us. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.
Okay, we would now move on to our alumni session. We have a small question and answer session with our alumni. We have got 2 people here with us, architect Raksha Magal and architect Praghathi Sholapur. I hope both of them are here.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi. Yeah, quickly I'll introduce both of you. Architect Raksha is an alumni of RVCA. Post-graduation, she worked as a junior architect in Bangalore. In 2018, she moved to US for her post-graduation at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Her degree in MArch is Ncarb accredited, which means she can pursue licensure in USA. UIUC is in Urbana-Champaign, which is a small campus 2 hours away from Chicago. Located near the skyscrapers, her course in UIUC is highly technical and collaborates closely with practicing architects of Chicago. The courses she specialized in include building science and building technology. She currently works as a building envelope architect and deals with hydrothermal properties, air and water tightness of the building envelopes, along with overall building energy modeling, PV analysis, solar shading, etc. Welcome, Architect Raksha.
Thank you.
Okay, quickly introducing architect Praghathi as well. Praghathi Sholapur is an architect with a master's degree in interior design. A proud alumni of RV College of Architecture, she also graduated with honors from America's top ranked interior design school, the New York School of Interior Design. Having studied, lived, and worked in the New York City in the last few years, she has had the coveted opportunity to work on projects both small and large, from compact condominiums near the World Trade Center to glitzy beachside manors in the Hamptons. Her design proposal on future homes in 2050, as part of the New York School of Interior Design's centennial celebration, was selected and published online in the famous NYC design blog. As an architect, she has also worked on corporate office spaces in Dubai and several Indian metros with a focus on space planning, green design, and vibrant color palettes. She was also on the design panel for Karnataka State Cricket Association Stadium in Raichur. Welcome, Architect Pragati.
Thank you.
Okay, so from one by one, we would like to hear from both of you your journey in terms of how you started after graduation and how did you decide to choose your individual courses, because that would help our students get a direction how they need to start thinking about their future prospects. Can we start with you, Raksha?
Yeah, sure. So I graduated from RV in 2017, and at that time, I had just completed my thesis. I knew that I was interested in the technical aspects of architecture, so I started looking for master's courses which dealt with the technical aspects, like everything to do with orientations of building science behind it, what goes into the building system, how it's integrated. I found UIUC to be particularly, it was kind of, the course was kind of what I was looking for. And I went about with the usual procedure, which is writing my GRE and TOEFL and putting in my SOP and portfolio and sending it to different universities. And after that, I have now graduated. I graduated at a very difficult time. That was during 2020. And it was a rough time, but everybody managed to find some offers and employment in USA. So that's where I am at right now.
Okay, and can you help our students understand a little about this NCARB accreditation?
Sure. So when you are applying for a MArch degree in USA, you get two types. One is which is accredited and one which is not. By accredited, we mean that after you pursue a course here, you will have the chance to pursue for licensure here. So the typical procedure is after you graduate, you have to complete about 3,500 hours of working experience in USA, and also have to pass 6 exams to get licensure. And once you have your licensure, you can start your own firm in USA. But without that, you can still continue to work for other companies in USA.
Okay, okay. And just interrupting 1 second. Students, if you have any particular questions, these are the questions from your introduction form, registration form. I'm asking if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat box. Okay, apart from that, what would you talk about your experience in terms of uh, in terms of the campus life and your during the whole course of your master's program? As a student, how was your experience, like in terms of students also have questions in terms of cost of living, survival, things like that?
Sure. I think that was very important for me when I started looking for different courses. Things like how much the day-to-day cost will be, what will be the cost of the whole program, etc. In my particular case, the town that I chose in UIUC, it was located about 2 hours from Chicago. It is a campus town, which meant that the cost of living was comparatively reasonable compared to the other areas. And actually, you get a lot of opportunities for social life in these master's courses, and you also have a lot of opportunities to explore in terms of art and architecture and all the other aspects. You can take courses in different departments. You can try out different things. So overall, my experience has been really good.
Okay, okay. Pragati, I would like you to pitch in here in terms of your experience because you studied in New York City, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So, how
Uh,
was yours?
so I graduated from RV in 2013, and I worked for about 2 years here in Bangalore, and then I moved to the United States. And
Okay.
I think while I was working, I kind of developed an interest for interior design because I was working predominantly on residential projects, and there was I think in India interiors is a very huge market, and everyone is there are so many projects that involve interiors here. So that
Correct.
is when I wanted to explore interior design. So then I started looking for colleges in the United States. Now the reason why I chose United States was I think because you have a lot of colleges, you have a lot of opportunities in the States, and I think it's even more, I mean, you kind of, the colleges are well known compared to UK or the Australia. Now, there was one more reason of choosing USA because I think at that point of time, UK had withdrawn the job opportunities that you get post your graduation in case you do masters in the UK. So I think that was also a key factor which helped me decide in USA, because in USA you have something called the OPT that you do after your graduation. So I think when I started looking for it, I went to the United States in 2015. So I graduated in 2017. So back then, the main although interior design was a very known industry, I think the rules had changed with perspective, because interior design initially, or I think before 2010, was a very main core subject in the United States. So there were a lot of courses that offered masters in interior design, but I think eventually they turned it all into fine art courses. So there are a very few colleges that give you masters in interior design, or I think right now none. So all your interior design courses kind of have been renamed as Master of Fine Arts, and you have Master of Architecture, which has a core in architecture. So that was a challenge because whoever I spoke to, or whoever I was trying to reach out to, they either knew about the masters in interior design and they had no idea about the fine arts courses. So that was a challenge. And then I think I started looking up the universities by checking out their websites, and it's super helpful to write to them at every stage, and they are very happy to help you and get back to you. Maybe they'll take a week at the max, but they surely will get back to you with your answers, and you can write to them how many ever times you want. I mean, they're not very particular about they don't get irritated or anything of that sort. So they're very helpful, and I think to understand how these courses work and what the requirements were, more than the website, I think I was hearing it from the admission teams in different universities. And I also took the GRE and TOEFL because I thought it was a safe bet, because there were not all courses in interior design require GRE and TOEFL as I mean, it's not a prerequisite, but there are a few colleges that require it. So because I was having a crunch of I didn't have enough time, so I thought, why take the chance? So I did my GRE, I did my TOEFL, and then I applied. I think portfolio plays a major role in applying for universities, especially architecture and any design-based course. Irrespective of what your portfolio is like, I think portfolio is the first thing that they look at. And then comes your cover letter, then comes your GRE and your TOEFL scores. I think in engineering, it's the other way around. Your GRE and TOEFL scores are what, makes, which is given more importance. So, so then I put in my portfolios. You have, again, now when you take admissions, I think there are two semesters that they take admissions for. One is the fall and one is the spring semester. And I had applied for all fall semesters. Now, the fall semesters start somewhere in August or September, and the spring semesters start post the new year, that is in Jan. So one advantage of doing the fall semester is I think you have a longer period to finish it, and you get to have 2 summers in between. So that is an advantage. And also, even if many colleges or many universities, even if you take the spring semester and you finish your course in the spring, you'll have to wait till the fall, till May, that is to graduate. So instead of wasting the 4 months, I think it's the smarter choice is to start in the fall semester. And again, this works better for engineering students, because in engineering, there are students who finish the 4-semester course in 3 semesters and they get to work immediately. But in architecture or any design-based courses, the course itself is properly structured and it's hectic. You really can't finish 4 semesters in 3. So it's my suggestion would be to always apply for a fall semester. So I think then I started hearing from universities, and I think I'd applied for 8 universities. And side by side, also the transcripts from your bachelor's degree college, like for instance here in this case RV, I think that is also important. And after I heard from 8, I think my major point in selecting the university was what was giving me student scholarships, where I could work part-time. I think that was more important, because more or less the course costs or the credits were all the same throughout. So it was mainly, and also the city. Now coming to your question now, I think working in New York City or studying, I think it's a major breakthrough, because New York City is otherwise called the design capital. So there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of designers. There are so many events. There's a lot of exposure also. So personally, I feel doing an architecture course or a design course in such cities, or at least closer to such big cities, will give you a lot of opportunities, will give you a lot of exposure. Because if you do it in a very small village, or in a very small city which is quite far from the major cities, I think for case studies or to travel, I think that becomes a challenge, especially in foreign countries, because we are new to the place. So New York City was like the hub. I used to go for a lot of events that were interior design based. There were conferences, there were seminars like these. So I think that way, and I also got to meet a lot of designers. And job opportunities are also high, because there are so many leading architectural firms or interior design firms that have base or headquarters in New York City. So I think that way, and the architecture of New York City itself is, something that you always want to keep looking at. So I think that way, New York City was really, really nice, and I really enjoyed working or staying there.
Okay, thank you. I think there are 2 questions sprouting out of what you said. One is something that they've put in the chat box, like what type of scholarships can we apply for masters? Like, what are the prospects in terms of that? One of you, yeah.
Okay, so Raksha, do you want to answer that?
No, go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so from what I remember, as international students, we can't apply for federal aid. So that is only for the US nationals.
Okay.
But individual universities have scholarship programs, and there are a few websites. I'm really not sure at the moment. Maybe I could look into my notes and share that later. But there are a few websites that help you with all kinds of scholarships and what kind of colleges give it. But the best way to handle this or to find out is to write to the college and ask them if they have a scholarship. Even if they don't have a scholarship, you can always ask them if you can do a on-campus part-time job. So that will kind of compensate the scholarship. But you can always try, because they have a need for a lot of students who have to help with admin work, teaching assistant. I was a teaching assistant myself for 2 years. So I did an on-campus job. Like every week I used to do 20 hours. That's the legally limited time. So
Okay.
it's always best, and maybe you can choose your college depending on the scholarship, but predominantly a lot of universities offer assistance in that field. I mean,
Okay.
in scholarship, they do provide scholarship, yes.
Okay. Um, yeah, another question that they had in terms of the portfolio. In the morning, also, I asked one of the professors this question. Like, I'm sure, Raksha, in your case, also, portfolio would have been a very important factor in the selection process.
Yes.
Yeah, so the students were asking, like, if say a person is working in a normal architecture firm which doesn't
Mhm.
specialize in, say, urban design or in interior design, so the portfolio will be more generic, it will be more broad in terms of its contents. So when you apply for these colleges, do you try to highlight the contents which are more specific to the course, or is it not the case?
So I think for this particular thing, at the point when I completed my bachelor's, I didn't exactly know what I was going to pursue. I didn't have a strong idea that this is the field that I want to get into. So
Okay.
I made my portfolio such that it was generic and which generally showed my design capabilities and expressed my passion for architecture mostly. But there were a few colleges where after looking at the course, I could see that these are the courses that I want to take, these are the subjects that I want to take. So those, I tailored my portfolio a little bit towards that. For example, if the course offers computational design and I had done some work related to computational design, I tried to highlight that. And by highlight, I mean we give it more space and make it prominent in the portfolio and bring it to the front.
Okay.
Apart from that, in other things, I kept it generic.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Pragati?
I think I kept it all generic because although I wanted to do it, I mean, I was only applying for interior design schools. I kept it very generic because I thought because my portfolio was focusing on interior design, and it was just 2 years since I had graduated. I mean, I was working, and there was not a lot that I could showcase. So whatever the projects or whatever work I had best, I think that's what I had put. Like, it was not like I didn't put all the work that I did in the 5 + 2 years. It was just the best work samples that I showed them. So also I realized, or I found out that for portfolio it doesn't matter how many pages or how many work samples you show. They're very uh, broad-minded to see the fact that even if you submit 3 or 4 projects, if they're detailed and it actually conveys what you're trying to tell them, I think that should be good. So mine was generic. I don't think I tailored any of my portfolio requirements, but again, out of the colleges that I applied, there were a few colleges that got back to me and they had their own design exam or an eligibility test. So they had kind of a design problem, some things like that, which they had emailed me and they wanted me to work on that and send it back to them, and that was what was a deciding factor for them. So they evaluated me based on their customized design problems. So that is
Okay.
also one method that they follow.
Okay. Okay. Uh, we have a question from Pravani. I'll read it out. It's long, so I'll read it out. So, a lot of seniors that I spoke to who have just passed out in the last 2 years told me that it's tough to find a sponsorship for visa. A few of them have also raised a concern in terms of the program that one chooses, because there are certain programs that are on high demand, so one gets hired quickly, and there are comparatively more job opportunities. What is your take on this?
I guess my question is, Pragni, are you talking about sponsorship once you've graduated or during the course?
Pravani, can you help us out in understanding your question?
Okay. So once you graduate, I think there are two kinds of programs. One of them is called STEM. STEM stands for Science, Technology, and Engineering. And a few courses are getting recognized, architecture courses are getting recognized as STEM courses. The course I did was also a STEM course. And by this, what it means is that after you graduate, you have 3 years where you can work in USA and then apply for your H-1B, wherein you'll require sponsorship. So without sponsorship, I can work for 3 years in USA. Apart from that, the other courses which do not have STEM, you can work for 1 year without sponsorship, and by that time, you can find your employer. You can ask them to sponsor your visa. That is how it works. And yes, there are certain courses or certain programs which have more demand and people get hired quickly. But I graduated last year in 2020, and what I noticed was that during the pandemic, everybody suffered almost equally. And during that time and post, like in the current situation that we are, I think job opportunities are hard to come by. But like I mentioned, I know that in my graduation class, everybody did get a job. So eventually, everybody is getting a job too.
That's actually a positive note for them
Yeah.
to end on. I don't think we have any more questions, and we are also almost at the end of the session. So, thank you both of you for sparing time for this. I assume that there has been a time difference, but we are really thankful that you could spare this time out for us and be a part of this session. One second, I'll just check if, yeah, no, it's just a thank you message from Pravani.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really great. And I can share my email with, and if any students have any questions, they can directly email me.
Sure. You can put it in the chat box so that if they have,
Sure.
if you don't mind, so that if they have questions, they can approach you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Yeah, I can put in my email too because
Yes, Pragati, that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Yes, because they are saying that they want to get in touch with you later
Yes,
on.
sure. I mean,
Yes.
I think they can reach out to us on an email anytime.
Yes. Okay, meanwhile, while you put your email IDs, tab tak, okay, students, we will take a 15 minutes tea break, and we will assemble back and start the next session at sharp 11:15. Okay, so kindly remain logged in because it helps us in coordinating the program. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Raksha. Thank you, Pragati. Take care.
Thank you. It was great seeing you, Pragati. Bye.
Yeah, same here. Bye.